Well, hello, Bill Wadman.
Hello, Sandy Robertson. How are you?
All the better for seeing you.
It's been far too long.
I'm incredulous.
I don't believe this is even happening.
Tonight we are talking about incredulity.
Okay.
What do you think that means?
Uh, uh, Disbelief. Uh, but more of uh, God, I don't know how. I'm trying to come up with the words. I'm bad with words today. Uh, there's. It's not disbelief in the way that I don't believe in fairies, but disbelief in. Well, actually, no. It actually is a little bit that. Um, it's like disbelief because of it's too absurd or something. I don't know. It's just like it doesn't feel right.
Yeah, an absurdity to it. But also, the reason why I came up with the title is because our first image is the incredulity of Saint Thomas, which gave rise to the phrase doubting Thomas.
Doubting Thomas. He
So,
was
really,
like, "You're not the real Jesus.
I
This
really
is."
want to talk about doubt tonight. That's what I'd like to talk
I'd like to talk about Caravaggio. So I think we're in cahoots here
about. Why do you like to talk about Caravaggio so much?
because I love Caravaggio.
Well, who doesn't?
Uh,
What kind of crazy person wouldn't?
it's funny. I don't. It's there's a they just reopened all of the galleries, the sort of Middle Ages, early Renaissance galleries at the Met,
Yeah.
including their one Caravaggio they have there, which is not a particularly great Caravaggio in my mind. And it's funny to me how some of his paintings don't quite work for me, and some of them are just so perfect. I don't understand how a human made them. They're just like he just nailed it. Um, yeah, this is a good one,
I think
and
this
also
is,
really creepy.
yeah, I think it's my favorite one.
This is your favorite.
Maybe, yeah.
Calling it St. Matthew for me, but all right, I'll give you that.
I think also it's the one I saw first or that I registered actually seeing as a girl.
Where is this?
I don't know where this is. There's one in Potsdam and there's one in Trieste.
Okay.
But I actually don't know where it is. This one, there's two versions, as you can tell. The same title, Incredulity of Saint Thomas. One is the ecclesiastical version, and one is the secular version. And this one is actually the secular version because we can see a portion of Christ's thigh, which in the other one is covered fully by the
Ah,
by the drape.
it's very risque. Can't
Yes.
show that ankle.
No, definitely not. But anyway, as I'm sure our viewers will know, Caravaggio, 17th century painter, Baroque, famous for chiaroscuro and tenebrism, this most extraordinary quality of light and dark, creating drama in the scene, and also composition. I think that the composition of Caravaggio's paintings is so powerful. Um,
Yeah.
the way that we're drawn in, the way that we enter intimate space is second to none, really. I mean, so many other painters have learned their craft by learning Caravaggio.
Yeah, it's the composition in a lot of them is it's almost too perfect where it ends up being almost a parody of perfection of, of composition at times, but it totally still works. Yeah.
And I know we've talked about Caravaggio before, but in case anyone is joining us fresh and you don't know very much about Caravaggio, Italian, a real rogue.
Yeah,
We
he
could talk.
supposedly murdered people and kept running away, right?
Well, he fled frequently from place to place. He died a very, I think, difficult death. There was lots of investigation. They found remains in a crypt, I think in Naples,
Yeah, I think he died in Naples, supposedly, yeah.
where they believed him to have been laid to rest. And they thought that perhaps his death had resulted or been the result of an assassination because he had killed um, a gangster, but a gangster who was part of a very wealthy, aristocratic, well-connected family. He pissed them off. In fact, I think he tried to castrate him and he killed him. Tomasini, I think his name was. Anyway, apparently that duel in which Caravaggio attempted to either castrate or, yeah, attempted to castrate the gangster was about a luscious lady, a socialite lady.
Isn't it always? It's about the ladies.
Well, actually, in Caravaggio's case, maybe not. There's lots written on his sexuality and why out of
Sure.
why out of all the others at that time and for many centuries before and since, painters painting the nude female, why he never did.
Well, that's true. And he did like that one, kid who played Bacchus and all the rest of them in a lot of his paintings. Like there was like that one model with the curly hair.
Well, yes, and things like the musicians and lots of other
Sure.
paintings in which this beautiful flesh is exposed,
Yeah.
male flesh, this the kind of zenith of masculinity and virility.
Isn't
That
it crazy though that you have this artist who was, working for the church, making all these religious paintings, doing all this stuff, and was such a jerk in his personal life. It's like it's kind of funny that that all adds up that way.
I don't know. Humans are humans, though, regardless of what accolades
Sure.
we receive.
But you think he would have been pushed out of a lot of the more well, I guess he ultimately was, but it's just kind of crazy. If you didn't know any of the backstory or read any of the biographies, you would just look at his work and think he was, this pious guy who sat around making religious paintings all day long.
Would you? I really contest that, Bill. I would say that actually looking at Caravaggio's paintings, you see the bluff and the bluster, and you see the violence, and you see also disdain. I think you see the drama, you see the passion.
Wait, are you saying there's no passion in the church? Is that what you're saying?
Actually, no. But what I do want to counter that with is the sense that we don't have a pious man.
Right. Yeah. This one always freaks me out. The idea of his finger being inside the wound on Christ just like it viscerally icks me out.
Well, I mean, the point of tenderness, though, with this, and we will talk about doubt in just a moment, but thinking about this, the way that Christ's hand guides the Apostle Thomas's hand into the wound,
Yeah.
I see that as an act of love, and I see the way that we are drawn to it ourselves as revealing that love to us, and that's
Well,
very
there's sort of a ultimate proof, right? Like I know you're looking at it, touch it, so you will know that this is real.
well. I mean, Thomas said, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe it."
Yeah.
And then apparently Christ said, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed."
So he's saying people with faith are better than people who doubt.
Well, there's a dirtiness to somebody who has to have proof. But,
I think that's convenient for Christ.
but, well, indeed. But, we're talking about doubt tonight
Sure.
and thinking about his Christ's response to Thomas is one that is, I don't know, how does it relate to doubt? Thomas doubts that this is Christ, and of course he's not scorned by Christ, but there is a sense that those people who blindly go forth into the absolute, the categoric belief, the affirmative that Christ is risen,
Mm-hmm.
they are blessed or blessed. I find that an unusual thing because it strikes me that doubting is where revelation lies.
I would say so, yes. But then again, I'm not much of a believer in faith.
Well, Where does faith come from?
I I think faith comes from the belief that you are correct. I think ultimately you need to see. Some people would say that it doesn't matter whether you know that you are correct. You believe you having faith is the whole point. Where I would say that somebody really only has faith if they think that they're right in the first place.
I know, but if you think about what you've just said there, Bill, faith is believing you are right. I believe I am right, and that gives me faith. But faith to me seems to be also about something that is nothing to do with me, funnily enough.
Yes, it's like you abdicating your role in that decision to someone else or something else.
Anyway,
Trust? Are
I'm in.
trust and faith the same thing?
Well, no.
Related?
Yes, I mean, in terms of language, yes. But no, the nuance of it. I mean, these subtleties are very difficult. I often wonder about how, communicating across different languages, we could ever forge a sense of really understanding each other. Because trust is in the ballpark, isn't it, of faith? But trust seems so much more human, whereas faith is spiritual.
Yes. And I think trust does rely on some belief of foreknowledge, like that I know the person I'm trusting and that's why I'm trusting them. Where faith is like it's not whether or not I trust that person. I am going to have faith that they are going to do right or that they're telling the truth or that what they say is true. Because otherwise, if you had, it's funny because Thomas here is incredulous until he has evidence, right? It's actually a real
Oh,
scientific
actually, hang
thing
on.
here.
Thomas did keep doubting.
Yeah, yeah, because it is so abstract. The thing that he's trying to wrap his mind around doesn't make any sense.
But also, I mean,
Versus,
there are lots of layers to this that, of course, we can talk about. We have a story in the first place that gives rise to a painting, and painting is illusory.
sure,
In fact, anything we see has the potential for trickery, is a lie often,
true.
and yet we're so used to these adages like seeing is believing. I think I've always doubted everything, and that sounds grand and dramatic, but it's actually not negative.
The
And
question is, if you doubt everything, is there anything that you believe in?
but
And if
that's
so, why do you believe in it?
no, but look at that. Here I am, and I'm going through this. I'm asking myself, I'm looking for myself to find out. I doubt, yet I also believe. And I don't believe in this version of organized religion, and I'm
Right.
not sure that I would say, as we've spoken about before, that I believe in God, for example.
Hmm.
But there is a sense of a broad faith, is the only word I can think of right now. And I do believe in funny things that you think are woo woo and crazy,
True.
but I doubt everything. And what I'm saying is that actually we seem to have cast doubt into the dusty bin of negativity without remembering that doubt, as I've already said, is where revelation lives. And not only that, but doubt is the place where potential lies. You know, facing a fact and saying categorically yes or no, being binary in one's decisions, that deadens the world. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. How extraordinary it is not to know. And to me, maybe it's a conflation too far, but I do put doubt and not knowing together.
Do you think in some way you don't want to know?
Well, sometimes I frankly don't care about knowing.
Sure. Yeah.
And again, there's
I,
lots of crossover with things. We've talked about magic before, and I will mention magic a bit later, actually. But, you know,
it's funny. Yesterday I put up on Threads. It's, the whole thing in Pulp Fiction where there's the briefcase and no one knows what's inside of it, but it's gold and it glows. And it's like there's this whole MacGuffin of the suitcase, and it doesn't really matter what it is, and is it the soul of all this stuff.
mm.
I want to know what it is. The mystery of it gives me no satisfaction.
But the mystery is the thing, Bill.
I understand that that's what people say. That does not satisfy me.
I realise this about you.
Yeah, but I mean, but I guess what I'm just trying to point out a distinction between you and I where, yeah, you find satisfaction in the idea that that thing is unknowable,
No, hang
where
on.
that thing being unknowable is very frustrating to me.
Hang on. You're putting whole systemized ways of thinking into my mouth. I'm satisfied.
No, I
No,
said you find it satisfying.
I might.
You
I
To
might.
me, not knowing gives me nothing, where to you it gives you something.
Why do you expect to receive something?
I want some knowledge.
Well,
I want
knowledge,
information.
information is dead.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, all right, postmodern girl.
No, that's not me being postmodern. That is me thinking about what knowledge means. What knowledge? I gain knowledge,
Yeah,
I acquire it. It's not really mine.
sure.
And knowledge is thought, and it's exchanged between us as a communication. And in that communication is the deadness of the past. It's not vital.
You
And
like living on that knife's edge of the known and the unknown, and that's present.
you're making this much more complicated, I think.
That's what I usually do.
I'm looking again at the sense that when there is doubt and when I don't know, that's alive. When I know and I've acquired knowledge and I feel very grand because I'm so terribly clever with everything I can recall, that is what I'm doing. I'm recalling. And recall is essential, of course, but it doesn't have the vitality of not knowing.
Interesting. Yeah, I think you and I just come. Yeah, to some extent, once you know that thing is done, and when it's done, it's in the past, and you're just accumulating the past as like it's like a weight on you in some way.
No, also not what I'm saying. It's
I'm
not
just
a
trying
weight.
to,
It's not a weight on me because that again implies this sense of it, something is right or wrong or good or bad.
yeah.
I'm just coming at that we're obsessed with acquisition. We're obsessed with knowing.
Yeah.
And how does it serve us? Well, it logistically it's very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, but is it being because it's in the past? Now we have to use the past, or at least we think we have to use the past to navigate now and into this future that we, regardless of what we know to be true, we always seem to think we do know something of the future, which is why we use what we know
Hmm.
to help us ease our way forward. that seems like lunacy to me, really, when I think about it. Because the not knowing, well, maybe weight is actually the right word because it's burdenless. It doesn't have the burden. I feel awake when I don't know.
But isn't there a certain implication in credulity that somebody is trying to get one over on you and therefore you don't believe it?
Yes, and that's the sadness of being incredulous.
The
There's a
negativity
shock.
of it.
There's a shock to it as well.
Yeah.
And maybe underneath the shock and the the aggressiveness of incredulity, there might be sadness and certainly fear of being stupid or being
Right.
thought of as stupid. Which is why I find it interesting that with this painting we pivot on an actual title, The Incredulity of Saint Thomas, and then in our modern vernacular we use Doubting Thomas. Because doubt to me has a quality of beauty that is very different to the fear I find in the incredulous.
Hmm. Wait, there's fear in being incredulous?
Well, as I said, there's the fear that someone's putting one over you. You said that actually. I
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
added fear because I do think most people are frightened to be wrong or frightened to be made fun of or a fool out of in their lack of guile, maybe.
Yeah, but that's just in group, out group sort of, you know, alligator, crocodile, reptilian brain stuff. But yeah. We got a Krishnamurti quote.
Well, of course, I couldn't not see you for weeks and then forgo a Krishnamurti quote.
All right, read it to me.
So, to qualify, nothing. Just to say that me reading this doesn't mean that I read this. It's very important to remember that you will hear my voice and I may start to transform actually what this is. So we need to be careful. It might be better for me not to read this.
So you're saying that each individual reading this will have is a different experience than you reading it out loud and them hearing it?
I think me reading it out loud and someone hearing it puts the layer of me onto it. I mean, there's
Wouldn't
already the
wouldn't
layer of
wouldn't
me
him
on it
say
because I've chosen it.
wouldn't him have said it saying it put a patina on it as well?
Well, indeed, but they are also words he spoke.
Okay.
In
All
that,
right.
anyway, it does say belief is a projection or an invention of thought, but we are attached to it because it gives a certain feeling of security, however illusory it is.
Yep.
Now, I've already used the word illusory this evening when I was talking about painting, and visual culture generally is an illusion, full of lies and deception. And so I wonder, and this is analysing, which really I ought not to do, but I do wonder then if visual culture gives us security, and whether when we look at a painting, we know a painting not to be real, do we doubt it? And at what level or where is the reality in painting? And that's even more interesting actually when we think about photographs.
Yes.
And not just
Because
in the box.
photographs are much closer to reality in the sense that something was in front of the lens originally.
Mm.
You know, it's not completely out of somebody's mind most of the time.
And then, of course, we come into something else about doubt, which is should we doubt? Should we? I mean, I showed a photograph. I might have spoken about it on here before, not very long ago, when I was talking about uh, wars that rage currently around the world. And at the time, the thing that was large in my mind was Russia and Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And I had found a photograph of a widow in a bombed out building in Ukraine, and I showed it to one of my classes. And I found out later it was a generated image.
Right.
And I thought it was a photograph, and I had used it to illustrate something I was saying about a war in Ukraine, and I really found that shameful. I found myself ashamed because I didn't check it. Uh,
Not that there weren't, women who were in bombed out houses in Ukraine. That's the funny thing about it, is that it's not that it was completely untrue, you know.
I know, but then look at us on the sliding scale, aren't we?
I know. Well, this is my problem with even this quote, where,
Mhm.
and he does this a lot, where he takes some real shade of gray that is like way at one end of the spectrum, and then he turns the entire spectrum into gray with it, you know?
Love that, Bill. You've made me love him even more.
See, to me, it's like, just because there are some things that you believe to be true that aren't true, therefore everything you believe to be true is possibly not true, therefore nothing is actually true or false.
Oh,
It's
you
like
always
this
say
sort
that.
of logical fallacy stuff that drives me crazy.
I know it drives you crazy. It now starts to drive me crazy a bit because this all seems quite straightforward to me.
But then, how do you trust anything? How do you trust that I exist? How do you trust that you're going to get to work tomorrow? How do you trust that this world, that the sun is going to come up tomorrow? Obviously, there are structures and things that are true.
But I don't, that's what I said at the beginning. I doubt and I
Yeah.
don't know.
What does being incredulous about the world all the time get you? What is the advantage? Because that must be a choice, right?
No, I'm not
You
sitting
think
here
it's just the way you are.
I'm not sitting here calculating my doubt. I'm not like weighing it against risk or like
So you think in your entire life you've always been this way?
I think I've always been this way. I don't
In the
think
same way that I'm always looking for structure and composition and frameworks.
see, look at you putting us in position.
I'm building a framework. That's
Always,
what my mind does. Yeah.
always. There's not been a single show out of hundreds of
Mm-mm.
shows where you have not done this to us.
I'm a real SOB. It's true.
I'm gonna come to Boston and I'm gonna go into this archive. I'm
Where
gonna
is this?
there's a special building I think that houses a massive collection, an archive of Maya Deren's work.
Okay. Gonna have to figure out where
Especially,
that is.
yeah, it's at the University of Boston,
Okay.
and there's a
I'm gonna find
particular
out.
name of a building in which the Maya Deren archive is housed.
Okay.
I mean, there are
Oh,
more.
it's at Boston University. It's at my wife's alma mater. Okay. Got it.
Right, so I mean, I think that coming up for me, I've really kind of started to get a bit of a taste for this now. I would
Okay.
like to come to Boston, and if I could have some kind of access to the archive, I would. That would be like a sort of dream for me. Anyway, Maya Deren, this is a film still. The Witch's Cradle. It's a short experimental film, and I mean, Maya Deren is so important to the movement of culture. And I don't know really anyone apart from I don't know anyone other than artists, really, who know anything about her. It might be different in America.
No. But then again, this is 1943. There was some other stuff going on at the time.
I appreciate that. But I mean, for example, The Witch's Cradle has this woman, Parjurita Marta, I think her name was. I can't find much information about her. And Marcel Duchamp.
Hmm.
When this film is cited, often Marcel Duchamp is credited with either making or co producing this film. It's just rubbish. This is Maya Deren's film. This is one of her many explorations into the occult and into like the dreamlike state of um like liminality of something other.
You love a liminal space. It's true.
I do. Um, but anyway, it's only 12 minutes long, so you can find it on YouTube really, really easily. If I was much better at tech, I would have embedded it for us
Okay.
to watch now. But as you know, I'm terrible with everything like that. But
Hmm.
essentially, The Witch's Cradle follows a bit of string as it worms and weaves its way around the bodies of these two and then ends up being in their hands like a cat's cradle. Um, all the while, it's completely silent. We have other kind of images, occult kind of symbols. There's a beating heart, for example, that comes up on screen. The whole 12 minutes is full of symbolism, and it's showing us things that, David Lynch years later must credit Deren
Yeah.
with many of the things that he would go on to produce, especially in things like Eraserhead.
I
Um,
haven't seen it, but I'm imagining. Yeah, a lot. There's also those weird Salvador Dali films that are all weird, surrealist like that too.
well, yeah, she
Like
was a serialist. She was part of the
yeah,
avant-garde. She had
sure.
friendships and relationships across very kind of well established and interconnected performers and artists. I mean, she is an artist, but she's
It's
also
interesting that you think that that films not dipping their toe, exploring the occult are central to Western creative thought. Am I putting words in your mouth?
yes.
What was the word you used? You termed it a certain way.
I don't know. It's come and gone.
Okay.
Um, what I was saying though is that actually Maya Deren should have a place in the wider consciousness of appreciators of Western art, visual culture.
Got it.
I do think that. And unfortunately, she's rather lost in amongst her male, more famous
Yeah.
um, associates. But anyway, I mean, the reason why she's here um, is because as an artist, she took a very keen interest in what I would class as doubt, and she wanted to find out, and that's why I mentioned the archive in Boston. It's full of footage and photographs from her time in Haiti, where she became frenzied in her obsession with voodoo. I mean, it's too easy perhaps to then draw a parallel with the curiosity and the doubts that she had that led her to explore such things within her death. She was only like 43 or 44 when she died, but she was horribly malnourished. Um, she seemed to have been exposed somehow to something that had like profoundly not just affected her, but had shown her something that transformed her. And I don't doubt, actually, that dealing with things that make others doubt frequently had had a massive, lasting impact on the filmmaker, and also spending time with her work on those who choose to consume what she did. Um, and doubt here plays with magic. Doubt has a relationship to magic for me. Maya Deren's work is about magic.
Do you think there's truth in magic, or do you think magic is the sort of opposite of truth?
No, I don't think it's the opposite of truth.
Is it the opposite of the investigation of truth? I mean, there is some sort of level of magic implies uh uh it goes back to the whole idea of somebody trying to, get one over on you. You know, it implies someone who has knowledge who's trying to dupe someone else, in my mind. Or you see magical as actually magical as opposed to a trick.
I think if we look at like the definition of magic, Bill, you'll see that
Yeah,
it's the desire to change, no, the desire to use invisible forces to change the visible world.
sure. But desire is just that. It's desire. It's not real.
I doubt I could wave my hand and create a streak of lightning,
Sure.
but I only doubt it.
Somewhere in there, you still think it might be possible.
Yes. Yes.
See, yeah, see, I can see if you went along the lines of, isn't it enough if my belief in it can make other people in the world believe it such that it becomes a truth in the world, sort of, sort of a modern day misinformation campaign. If I make people believe that the pyramids of Giza are actually in London, and if I make enough people believe it, then they might as well be, because people believe that it is. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. In that case, belief can lead to change in the world, but it is false change.
Yes, but then we look at something there that is about externalizing and lying. There's the difference.
Yeah. See, magic implies lying to me.
No, I think that magic went about oneself, just to say it like that because it's easier. When it's not about lying to others, but it's about spinning the golden yarn to yourself.
To what end?
Well, this is where sometimes I want to reach through the screen and beat you, is that there isn't an end to it.
Hmm.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes the end is simply pleasure or fun.
Sure.
You know, there have been times in life for me where magic has been about knowing something just for me.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a fundamental disagreement that you and I have in the sort of, you know, I imagine life is me in a car with a tank of petrol. You, if you see it the same way, you're fine with just driving whatever direction, because in the end, it doesn't matter. Once I run out of gas, I run out of gas.
No, I
So it
think
doesn't matter
sometimes,
where I want to go in a
listen,
particular direction, you
I
know?
think sometimes, I think sometimes you enjoy what you think is diminishing me by making
I
me
don't mean it to be
by
diminishing.
making me sound as if I'm some kind of crackpot nutcase. I'm not talking about an external action. I'm talking about in within.
Yeah.
There is magic, and it is not for any end that you would understand, because it is I
Oh, wait, who's diminishing who now?
well, I'm doing it in a much more obvious and frankly honest and way, which is
Okay.
not about making it seem that there's something a bit silly. I find it worrisome that there's no room in your kind of binary logic for magic. But who am I to say? I'm only projecting what I am onto you there.
Yeah, it's true.
Anyway, doubt.
Do you have any doubts right now?
Hmm, many, as
Are those
usual.
yeah. Are those crystals hanging behind you? No, right there on the yellow and green, maybe the thing's
Oh,
hanging right off the end of that shelf.
this
Yeah.
little felt.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Right. I am going to say Bill Wadman. It is
Right.
obviously a pleasure.
As always, Sandy, we will talk to you soon.